In the Netherlands, Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki denounced before the United Nations highest court that his people are suffering colonialism and apartheid under Israeli occupation. The Venezuelan prosecutor's office makes new revelations with conviction evidence related to the Brazalete Blanco case that links Rocío San Miguel to activities that have nothing to do with the defense of human rights. And Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez received in Havana his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, who arrived at the talks accompanied by a large delegation. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Monday, Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki denounced before the United Nations highest court at The Hague that his people are suffering colonialism and apartheid under Israeli occupation. The ICJ opened this week a series of hearings to analyze the legal consequences of Israel's occupation of the Palestinian territories since 1967. A record 52 countries, including the United States, Russia and China, are expected to testify in this process at The Hague. Riyad al-Maliki asked the court to declare the occupation illegal and ordered it to end immediately, completely and unconditionally. Lawyers and jurists in the Netherlands urge Israel to stop human rights violations in Palestine. International law expert Paul Richerler, representing the Palestinians, assured there is no surprise that the U.S. defending Israel.
The only state besides Fiji to defend Israel is the United States. This is not surprising. Whatever offenses against international law Israel commits, the United States comes forward to shield it from accountability. Here, the United States attempts to defend Israel, not by arguing that the occupation is lawful, but that it is neither lawful nor unlawful. To reach this conclusion, the United States argues that belligerent occupation is governed exclusively by international humanitarian law and not by the UN Charter or general international law. In its own words, quote, although international humanitarian law imposes obligations on belligerents in their conduct of an occupation, it does not provide for the legal status of an occupation to be lawful or unlawful. Even assuming arguendo that this is a correct reading of international humanitarian law, which we dispute, it does not lead to the conclusion that an occupation cannot be unlawful under international law. What about Article 2.4 of the UN Charter and general international law, including the prohibition on acquisition of territory by force? For the United States, apparently, this peremptory norm does not exist when it comes to Israel's annexation and settlement of the occupied Palestinian territory.
The lawyer representing the state of Palestine referred to the importance of a court ruling that declares illegal the ongoing Israeli occupation of Palestine.
The best and possibly the last hope for the two-state solution that is so vital to the needs of both peoples is for the court to declare illegal the main obstacle to that solution, the ongoing Israeli occupation of Palestine, and for it to pronounce in the clearest possible terms that international law requires that this entire illegal enterprise be terminated completely, unconditionally, and immediately.
The President of Brazil, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, took part in the annual summit of the African Union in Ethiopia. There he accused Israel of committing genocide and compared Israel's actions to Adolf Hitler's campaign to exterminate the Jews.
What is happening in the Gaza Strip with the Palestinian people has no parallel in other historical moments. In fact, it existed when Hitler decided to kill the Jews.
President Lula da Silva also referred to the indifference of the leaders of the G7 countries and ratified the claim of his administration and the international community that what is happening in Gaza is genocide.
It is very funny when I see the rich world announcing that it will stop contributing to the humanitarian aid for the Palestinians. I am left wondering what is the side of this political conscience of these people, and how big is the heart of solidarity of these people who are not seeing that in the Gaza Strip there is no war, there is a genocide going on.
Norway reports that it will help transfer funds illegally frozen by Israel to the Palestinian government. It is suspected that this is a request from the United States, which sees how the situation in Rafah and its possibilities of maintaining some control in the post-genocide stage are getting more complicated. Palestine has not been receiving its resources since October 7th. Subsequently, the Zionists wanted to transfer resources except those of Gaza, but the Palestinian government did not accept this. However, the severe shortage situation in Rafah has forced Norway to be a financial bridge and at least be able to pay salaries and provide essential services. Palestinian firefighters intervened at the scene of an Israeli attack in Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip on Monday. Deadly fighting broke out in Gaza on Monday after Israel warned that it would continue its offensive during the mostly holy month of Ramadan, including in the Rafah area in the far south. Global concern has grown over the fate of 1.4 million Palestinians who have been forced to seek refuge in Rafah near the border with Egypt, enduring shelling and severe food shortages in overcrowded tents and makeshift shelters. Overnight attacks and fighting in Gaza killed more than 100 Palestinians, mostly women and children, bringing the death toll to more than 29,000 according to the Gaza Health Ministry, where fighting was heaviest in Khan Yunis, north of Rafah. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Venezuela, Attorney General Tarek William Saab presented this Monday the advances in the Brazalete Blanco case. The Attorney General pointed out that this terrorist attack intended to end the life of President Nicolás Maduro. Saab reported that those responsible intended to attack the 21st Army Brigade in Táchira and capture 482 rifles, 51 pistols and 10 shotguns from the arms park. He also detailed that the evidence found at the time of the arrest of the citizen Angelo Heredia incriminates Rocío San Miguel of being involved with the case. Another of those arrested was Guillermo Enrique César Ciero, and his home authorities found a military operation order where he explained the whole plan and also mentions Rocío San Miguel.
The executors, according to what we have found so far, had calculated that the weapons that they were going to capture, according to their totally criminal plans, consisted of 482 rifles, 100 rifles, 51 pistols, and 10 shotguns. In this case, as we reported at the time, the detention of a true terrorist criminal for all that is his background. I mean Angelo Heredia, which has allowed to reveal who was involved with him in this plot.
The Attorney General of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela continued adding,
15 people have been subsequently deprived of their freedom. Another 4 have prosecutionary measures. There are 15 arrest warrants pending to be executed. Now, in this plot appears linked Rocío San Miguel, because at the moment of arresting Ángelo Heredia, the investigations found out not only in his telephone contacts Rocío San Miguel herself. You, for example, correspondent of an international agency, are not in his contacts of Ángelo Heredia. Rocío San Miguel, you do not appear. But she does, because she appears as a telephone contact of coordination in the phone book of a terrorist of this subject, Ángelo Heredia.
Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez received in Havana his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov, who arrived at the talks accompanied by a large delegation composed, among others, by Foreign Affairs Vice Minister, the Director of the Latin American Department of the Russian Foreign Ministry, and the spokesman of the Foreign Ministry. A stronger coordination to face the aggressive reaction of the U.S. and its allies to the formation of a new multipolar world order is one of the central topics of the talks that are currently being held in Havana. Lavrov noted that Cuba knows firsthand all the tools of extortion of the collective West. On relations with Cuba, the Russian minister stressed that although the ties are indeed developing, there is still a lot of work to be done. In this regard, Bruno Rodriguez described Russia as a close friend and a close ally of Cuba and stressed that receiving Lavrov in Havana is a great pleasure. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stressed the importance of Cuba as a strategic partner of Moscow in the region of Latin America and the Caribbean.
Cuba is our partner, a very important ally in the region of Latin America and the Caribbean. We are satisfied with the character of our relations, of our dialogue at all levels, including the highest levels between Parliament and also between the respective ministries of the two countries.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said they have maintained their interest in increasing cooperation and investment in the largest Antilles island.
We have established our position to increase cooperation, mutual investments. Some time ago, we have taken a number of decisions that have formed the legal basis of our interaction. And the most important in this regard is the Russian-Cuban Commission for Scientific and Technical Cooperation. We have established the interest of both sides to hold another meeting of the organization in the coming months.
In El Salvador, leaders of the Faramundo Martí Front for National Liberation, FMLN, announced that they will request the nullity of the electoral process after registering and documenting different irregularities during the electoral and legislative elections. According to the FMLN, the result of the final scrutiny of the elections held on February 4th does not reflect the national reality and was the outcome of a series of changes to the electoral rules to continue concentrating power. The FMLN added that its objective is to give a voice to the most vulnerable Salvadoran families and to conquer more rights for the population. Previously, the opposition parties Vamos and Arena had also announced their interest in presenting such an appeal for nullity. The former president of Argentina, Cristina Fernández, estimated that the 57.4% poverty rate affecting the South American country, according to a study by the Argentine Catholic University UCA, leaves the nation in a worse situation than 20 years ago, when the index was 54%. The Veronese leader considered that the graph of the Observatory of the Social Debt of the UCA, which reflects the highest percentage of poverty since the historical series began in 2004, shows something more than a massive setback. This situation occurred especially from 2018, when the government of Mauricio Macri went into debt in dollars by borrowing from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, estimated Fernández de Kirchner. The report referred to by the former president reflects an increase in poverty of 7.9 percentage points between December and January, from 49.5% to 57.4%. In Chile, temporary housing was provided on Monday to families who lost all their belongings in the forest fires that occurred during the first days of the month in the Valparaiso region. The mayor of Villa Alemana, one of the most affected communities, declared that 107 houses were affected by the flames. On Monday, 12 families of the place were benefited with a temporary housing until the definitive reconstruction works began. Regarding the rest of the victims, Toledo said that the process will be different because they are not owners of the lots where they had built their houses. The government proposed to deliver a temporary voucher for the payment of rents or accommodation in a hotel. This last one is destined in particular to pregnant women or elderly people. We have a final short break coming up, but before, we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news, coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The Moroccan Armed Forces reported the rescue of 141 migrants aboard a boat heading towards Spain's Canary Island. Among the rescued migrants, there were 3 minors and 2 women. The rescue operation, which started on February 10th from Mauritania, lasted more than 15 hours due to bad weather. After the recovery of the makeshift vessel, Moroccan authorities took the migrants to the port of Dakhla, where they were handed over to the police for the necessary formalities. The United Nations World Food Programme warned that at least 25 million people are struggling with soaring rates of hunger and malnutrition as the crisis in Sudan sends shockwaves around the region. The United Nations agency said thousands of families are being displaced and forced across borders into Chad and South Sudan each week, adding the already dire humanitarian situations in both countries and creating the world's largest displacement crisis. In South Sudan, families fleeing Sudan now make up 35% of those facing catastrophic levels of hunger, despite only accounting for 3% of the population. There are 18 million acutely food insecure people within the war-torn country, and around 3.8 million Sudanese children under 5 years old are malnourished.
We came by bus. It took us 2 days to reach here. We came from Sudan because of the war. We came to look for a place to stay and settle. What we need is food. The immediate support we need is to eat to be able to survive.
For his part, World Food Programme East Africa Regional Director Michael Dunford described the difficult conditions facing this crisis.
People are leaving Sudan, fleeing Sudan because of the war, because of the conflict, and they're ending up here where WFP and other agencies are providing basic support. But it's an extraordinarily challenging circumstances. It's 40 degrees here today. People, as you see, arrive with very little, if anything at all. They're being registered, they're being given basic support, and then they're being asked to move further into South Sudan.
In Turkey, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan welcomed his Azerbaijani counterpart, Ilham Aliyev, who is making his first official visit after the February 7th presidential elections. At the presidential palace, both heads of state offered a press conference following private meetings. For the first time last year, the total trade volume between the two countries reached $7.5 billion. President Ilham Aliyev said that Turkey is a country that nowadays has a voice all over the world. Earlier, Aliyev and his accompanying delegation visited Atatürk Mausoleum, which houses the mausoleum of Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, founder of the Republic of Turkey. On Monday, French President Emmanuel Macron meets his Guatemalan counterpart Bernardo Arévalo at the Élysée Palace for bilateral talks focused in strengthening their bilateral relations. The visit of the Central American president is part of his first official visit to Europe, which began on February 16th and will last until February 23rd. In this sense, official sources of his presidency emphasize that the aim of the trip is to strengthen the country's bilateral and multilateral relations with the global system. Bernardo Arévalo's next stop will be on Tuesday 20th in Brussels, where he will meet with high authorities of the European Union and the European Parliament. The Eiffel Tower, one of the world's top tourist attractions, was closed Monday after staff went on strike. The strike, which was called to protest over the way the monument is managed financially, could be extended. The tower's operator SETE said on its website that visits of the monument will be disrupted on Monday. It advised ticket holders to check its website before showing up or to postpone their visit. E-tickets holders were asked to check their emails for further information. The stop page is the second strike at the Eiffel Tower within 2 months for the same reason. Unions have criticized operators SETE for its business model that say is based on an inflated estimate of future visitors' numbers while underestimating construction costs. Switzerland's biggest carnival kicked off in the early hours of Monday as costume revelers lit up the dark streets of Basel with many lanterns dedicated to artificial intelligence and climate change. The three-day event, one of Europe's best-known carnivals, transforms the city streets into a river of painted lanterns, colorful masks, and creative costumes flowing to the sound of pipes and drums. Tens of thousands of people got up before dawn to watch the lantern-lit Morgenstreich procession, in which some participants wore lanterns on their heads. At 4 a.m., the lights were turned off in Switzerland's third biggest city, given the forward march order to set off in the local dialect of German. Many choose the topic of climate change, although artificial intelligence, fake news, the 150th anniversary of the Basel Zoo, the movie Barbie, and wars around the world were also on the agenda.
Well, soon it's going to be Morgenstreich. This means that the light will go dark in the whole of the city. And short before that, we actually start the march by shouting Morgenstreich forwards march. And on that, the light should go down and everyone starts with the same march.
And I heard that this carnival is really famous and because of the UNESCO status. So yeah, that's why I want to see how it's beautiful, how it's big, that's why I'm here.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.